There you have it, folks. The award for the most absurd concept for a series has just launched in the fall 2025 anime season. Yes, SANDA, a series that involves a boy who has the power to transform into an old man, Santa Claus, complete with the signature ho ho ho. Yes, SANDA is finally here, a series that I was cautiously excited for. Yes, from the creator of Beastars, I think this writer just has a very creative mind, and that's already showing in this series. Couple them with the artistic power that is Silent Sorrow, and I'm already feeling like this series can be gold, if it all pans out. But I've watched the first 2 episodes of the series, so let's just jump into it. SANDA opens up with a boy named SANDA, and from the get-go, he has a major problem. His classmate is trying to stab him with a knife. Now, he doesn't know why she's doing this. He assumes that maybe possibly she's going through something like boys go through with puberty. Maybe it's messing with her emotions. Maybe she actually likes me, and she's trying to express it by stabbing me. Well, no, we find out why this is the case later on, as we find out that, yes, it seems like SANDA is the descendant to Santa Claus, and for some reason, Furamura knows this. Doesn't quite know why she knows this, but no, she's trying to fulfill the conditions to break the curse and manifest Santa. These include showing kindness to a child, giving a child what they asked for on a snowy December 25th, and yes, wearing something red. And so it seems like her idea of making him wear red is by making him bleed. So she ends up eventually stabbing him. To which point he turns into Santa Claus, suddenly busts out, turns into this old man, white hair, beard and everything, yelling ho 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 ho. At which point Furamura gives Santa her wish. See, her friend Ono has gone missing and declared dead, and she knows that something happened to Ono, so she wants Santa Claus to help her find her friend. And this is where things get a little weird in the idea that SANDA himself, even though he is this boy, it seems like the aspect of Santa Claus himself comes through him. The desire to want to see children smile. And so, sure enough, when Furamura requests this, even though he doesn't really know why Furamura knows this, and he does want to keep his identity as a descendant of Santa Claus a secret, he wants to fulfill her wish. So, he promises her that he'll find Ono. Going forward, we get to see how Furamura decides to test SANDA, test his abilities as Santa Claus, decides to strap a bomb to herself, and makes him have to find out where the bomb is in the middle of the class. Now, you might think the idea of a girl being willing to stab a boy in order to transform him into Santa Claus would be weird, but that's where we kind of pan out and get an idea of the society they're in. Yes, this is a little bit of a broken world that we're in here. See, it seems that because of declining birth rates, we're at a point now where children under 15 only account for about 1% of the population. The economy itself is in a decline, and thus many societies have enacted laws to protect children, and has pretty much elevated them to a protected class that's above even adults themselves. Even going so far as that if a child were to kill an adult, they won't even get charged for it. And yes, SANDA and all of his classmates are such protected children, within an academy that kind of monitors everything they do and makes sure they have zero stress. And it's kind of messed with these children a bit, kind of made them a little bit full of themselves, feeling they're above the law. And this is shown as one of SANDA's roommates, Hitoshi, eventually discovers the secret that SANDA is hiding. He ends up kidnapping SANDA and Furamura just for the sake of wanting to put them under his thumb, force them to do things they don't want to do. Which, yes, involve wanting SANDA to kiss Furamura, but they're interrupted by the headmaster showing up, which we get a little bit of introduction of the headmaster himself and the fact that he's this 92-year-old man that, in order to show the beauty of youth itself, has injected tons of chemicals into his face in order to keep his beauty, and he's like massively obsessed with the idea of protecting the children and hates adults and has a desire to have the children of this academy eventually save Japan. Even going so far as to locking up children inside of like this happy zone underground in order to rehabilitate them. To which SANDA, in his nature of being Santa, even though he was kidnapped by Hitoshi, decides to bust out and protect him from the evil adult. But that's when Hitoshi reveals what he was actually after with SANDA. See, his parents own a cake shop, and because the economy itself is declining, he really badly wants SANDA to become Santa and to return to doing his routes on Christmas, to bring back Christmas, help the economy boom, and eventually save his parents' cake shop. And that's the gist of SANDA so far. My gosh, that was so difficult to actually explain because this show is so freaking bizarre. I absolutely love this creator and just the unique and interesting design they make for their worlds. Like, again, Beastars was such a creative world. It had such a unique feel to it, and it all kind of just worked. And that's sort of what I'm getting with SANDA so far. Even though it's so absurd, I mean, yes, the concept of declining birth rates and the economy itself declining is unfortunately what we're kind of dealing with in the world right now. But just to kind of make it this idea of mankind essentially lifting up children to be literally above the adults themselves. The adults actually speak respectfully to the children because they're so important, and thus the children are getting a little bit bloated in their head, and they actually talk down to the adults. And then again, you have literally Sanda transforming into Santa Claus and yelling ho 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 and having superpowers that would be applied to Santa Claus, like bladed skis and the ability to withstand fire because he's able to go down chimneys all the time. It's so freaking weird. And Science Saru has nailed it, by the way. Visually, this show looks great, and it definitely kind of captures the very unique style, the character designs of the original source material. They just do a great job of bringing them to life, the expressiveness of the character, very artistic shots themselves. Some of the animation scenes are so fantastic, but Science Saru is just taking off with it and doing such a great job with it. But overall, like, my thoughts of the show itself, yes, I love the absurdity of it. It's just absolutely crazy. It's bonkers, and I love that kind of stuff. But I will admit, from the first episode, I wasn't really intrigued by the story. Again, it was just Furumoto. For some reason, she badly wants to stab him, and he transforms into Santa Claus to fulfill her wish because her friend's missing. And then to add on that, Furumoto proceeds to literally strap bombs to herself to blow herself up in Kim class in order to force Sanda to show his powers as Santa Claus. It just felt weird. Like, why are we even bothering doing this? Just to show that he can, survive fire? ? Why would we go through all this trouble? And why would you be so willing to blow up a class in your school because that's just going to put a big bullseye on you? But then it all makes sense in episode 2. When they reveal that these kids are a protected class and that they can pretty much get away with anything because they don't want to lose the children. Like, every child is important. They don't want to lose a single one of them. So they kind of get away with everything. So the idea of one of the classrooms blowing up isn't really going to raise much of a fuss because, oh well, as long as the kids aren't hurt, we don't really care. Even though you would think that would put a bigger bullseye on them, because an explosion at a school where children, which are like this prized resource, you would think they'd want to figure out what the hell happened badly, but whatever. Whatever. I'm thinking too much on it. But it does make sense to the world itself. Like, the world building they did in episode 2 kind of intrigued me a lot. That's where I suddenly got hooked on the show. The moment that Sanda said, hey, these are my roommates, we're all a bunch of goofballs, but we're a national treasure. And I'm like, wait, was that a bad translation or something? No, it literally is the case. Like, mankind is doing so bad right now. They account for 1% of the population. The economy itself is tanking, and this academy has been built just for the sole sake of protecting them and making sure there's zero stress and that they grow up and then they can eventually save society. And that kind of builds the side effects to everything, which again, I attribute to this writer's work. They're so good at taking something that's kind of absurd that shouldn't really exist and make it actually make sense. And the idea that these kids are full of themselves. They talk down to the parents. And yes, additionally, add that with the later parts of the episode, they hate adults. Yeah, Furumoto doesn't want to trust any other kids because eventually they become adults, and adults are evil. They all see adults as evil. They all want to use them. They see children as resources. That's the very interesting stuff that could eventually build into something. Outside of that, though, I do like Sanda's character. Now, I will admit, episode 1 wasn't a really good first impression. I just did not like this guy. He was just too stupid. He's just too stupid. Now, it sort of explains it in the idea that he sort of has a mixed personality here. What they're going for with Sanda is that he is a 14-year-old kid. 100%. Him physically and mentally, he's a 14-year-old kid. But the oddity about Sanda, and the thing that kind of makes him a little bit quirky, and it kind of explains the earlier moments of him going, oh my gosh, why is Furumoto trying to stab me? Maybe she likes me. It's constantly getting to the idea that the personality and the beliefs and the desires of Santa Claus himself is affecting Sanda. The idea that, yes, when he sees a child that's upset, he wants to help them. Why he trusts people is because Santa would trust people. Why he wants to protect this kid, even though he just kidnapped them and threatened them, is because Santa. He constantly goes, am I thinking this because of Santa? Am I wanting to do this because of Santa? Am I being kind because of Santa? It does seem to imply the desires of Santa Claus is affecting him in some way. And yes, even going so far as when, Hitoshi says for them to kiss each other, he's like, no, Santa wouldn't do that. Wait, you're a 14-year-old. Why would you be bothered by that? He's literally in the form of Santa Claus, and he's like, that's a taboo. Santa Claus would never do that. I do like this kind of stuff. I do like the melding of personalities and mindsets that kind of really mess with them. So it's sort of the quirk of SANDA that I'm actually really liking. The only part that's giving me a little pause so far is probably the end of episode 2, getting the idea of the headmaster knowing who Santa Claus is, and it gets into this whole idea of the Saint Nick Pursuit Unit. They have like this action group that's trying to find Santa Claus to take him out or something like that. That stuff kind of gives me a little pause there and the fear of it turning episodic or something like that. But I have a lot of trust in this writer that I'm assuming a lot of what that stuff is the idea of rewriting history. Because they've implied several times before that it seems like a lot of people don't even remember Christmas. They don't remember Santa Claus. It does feel like society itself has sort of rewritten history so that people don't even know about this stuff. The existence of Christmas itself has been erased. And maybe possibly there's a reason why they're trying to erase it. Maybe there is a fear of children even remembering who Santa Claus is. Is there a danger there? Do they want control? Such and such. That's where I'm assuming it's probably going to go, because there's a lot of emphasis in the idea of Santa Claus himself as SANDA trying to protect the children and help them and break out from the controls of the society. This headmaster who's obsessed with them and all that kind of stuff. We'll see though. But so far, I really, really like this show. It's just a lot of fun. It's quirky as hell. Even if the story itself doesn't pan out, which I assume it will, because again, I trust this writer, it should at least be a fun ride. It's just got that quirky goofiness that I absolutely love. But we'll see. But that's my thoughts so far on SANDA. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content, you want to support the channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, I'll take care.